Welcome back to Chapter Chats. Today we are unpacking Chapter 11 of Chuck Hodell's book, ISD from the Ground Up, a no-nonsense approach to instructional design. This chapter focuses on a critical partnership in instructional design, working with subject matter experts, or SMEs. So let's dive right in. My first question for you, Chuck, is you mentioned that many designers struggle with managing SME relationships. What's the biggest mindset shift that a designer can adopt to foster true collaboration with SMEs?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as you're looking at this chapter in the book, there's a lot of stuff in here. So we're talking about the 5 different kinds of SMEs. We're talking about building relationships and doing all these things. And the reason it's farther back in the book is because this is one of those topics, Denise, that you don't get into necessarily early in a learning design career. If you're just taking courses, you're getting a master's, you're getting a certificate, whatever you're doing, you may not have the same experience level that you will have very quickly when you get in the field or you spend more time in it. So one of the things that I saw in my own maturation as a designer was my willingness to accept the fact that I didn't know everything, that I didn't know everything about content in specific areas, most of them, to be honest, and the things that I was doing at that point. And I had to rely on people that had that knowledge. And these are our SMEs. And coming from the body of SMEs into instructional design, like many of us do, you have a different relationship. And you have to be good at this. Designers that work at scale, which we're talking hundreds of courses, not one that you deliver yourself, you're always going to deal with some level of SME, whether it's someone that knows knowledge or has knowledge in a specific area, if it's a professional that's doing coding or photography or video for you, even sometimes support staff. These are all SMEs. And you have to, as a manager of process, to be able to deal with all of these folks. And they have different needs. They have different expectations. And a lot of this is project management in some ways, just being able to take your resources and make the best of them. The other thing is sometimes it's really about building community. And you hear this a lot, let's be the team and all the rest of it. But the reality of this, from my experience, is you do have to have a very high-level working relationship with these folks, or you're not going to get the best product.
So, Chuck, why do you think there are 5 different types of subject matter experts?
Well, this took a while to evolve, Denise. And, a long time ago, I thought, okay, everybody's grouping SMEs into this one group of people. In reality, from my experience, there are at least 5 different types. There's probably more than that. Someone else can write another book on this and come up with 10 or 15, do what you do. But what I found out is that I couldn't lump them all together. So someone who had incredible content knowledge may have never taught it or taught it and didn't do it well. And you have people that are very good at content knowledge and are also excellent teachers and facilitators. But you also have managers of process, which I call sentinels. These are folks that are responsible for different things within organizations, but they may at one time have done something within the content area. And many times they think they're still current on it, and someone has to tell them that they're not, which usually is a design manager. And then you've got other support people, like the folks that do video, the people that do photographs, the people that code, anything that's related to your project that isn't in a strict sense instructional design or content knowledge, there's SMEs too. And the other ones are support staff. They are subject matter experts. What they do is incredibly important to what you're doing, but they also have their very vertical areas of expertise. So I see 5, others might see 10, some people see 2, but the notion is don't think about these as one amalgamated group of people.
You emphasize the importance of trust in SME partnerships. What are a couple of practical ways that an instructional designer can build trust early in the project?
Well, that's really important, Denise. And it's not just trust, it's building that relationship. If you don't work at bringing folks into your team, your group, your community, then what you're going to have is you're going to have people off at a distance, and they're going to feel it, and they're not going to participate at the level that they could or should. And what I have found is sometimes humbling myself very early with a group of subject matter experts is a very powerful thing. And one of the first things I will say to a group before we start a project is, I don't know anything about what this is going to do in terms of the content. I'm not going to kid myself. And the other thing is, I'm going to have enough respect for you as a subject matter expert that I'm not going to offer my opinion on things. And you've heard me say many times, instructional designers don't need opinions. It's the worst thing you can do in instructional design. But this is an example of where you absolutely cannot have an opinion. If you're managing a project and you're an instructional designer, let your SMEs talk. Listen to them. They have this knowledge. And it's also the same for them. You need to explain to them that you're the designer. Okay, let me worry about all this design silliness. You just tell me all about this stuff. And I think defining roles early, having respect, humbling myself, as I always do in these situations, and just build this community, build this relationship that's more than just, I have to be here, so I guess I'll participate.
Yeah. You point out that SMEs sometimes struggle to translate deep expertise into teachable chunks. What techniques do you recommend to help SMEs think like a designer?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, because I'm not sure I want them to think like a designer. I think I want them to think like a subject matter expert. So many times when I do analysis, and I'll do it, I've done it at scale with 70 plus SMEs in the same room. What I do is I get them to break things down into manageable chunks, which we would call objectives, but they don't need to know that. They don't care about that. And one of the things, the techniques I use is putting up notes. If you're in the same room with them, you can get a whole package of notes and just say, give me one content area, give me one content area, give me one step in this, give me another step in this. And the other thing that I've used, which some people kind of raise their eyes at me, is I have them design something backwards. So I say, I want you to tell me what the exit competency is that you expect out of this group for this. Okay, what's the last thing that they need to be able to demonstrate before that happens? What's the thing before that they need to think about? So what that does is it gets them out of their safe place, which is, I know how to do this, and this is how I do it, to, oh, I got to think about this a little differently. What is that? Oh, okay. And the other thing that I found with SMEs, particularly in this situation, is they make a lot of assumptions about what people know. And they start off right at the top and no, we need to go back to the basics here. Here's where our population is starting. This is where we need to start with this course, this training, this project. So I need you to go back and just think about this from the perspective of someone who has no knowledge whatsoever. And the first place I learned this was in IT. So instructional technology and people that are working with computers and programmers and those kind of folks. They are such a high level of skill that they make a lot of assumptions about populations. What do you mean they don't know how to do that? They should know how to do that. Well, okay, well, maybe they should, but they don't. So we got to go back. And I think that's the kind of things that really are important and create that community with them, but also, okay, I need you to think differently about this. I'm not going to tell you how I think about it as an instructional designer, but I want you to tell me in terms of the knowledge of this content. Okay, what's the last thing? What's the thing before that? What's the thing before that? Backward design, sometimes their eyes just get huge because I never thought about it that way. And so, well, it's one of those weird design things. Sorry.
It's what we do. My last question for you, Chuck. There is a great section on the don'ts of working with SMEs. In your experience, what is one common mistake that new designers make in SME collaboration, and how can they avoid it?
I think the biggest thing, and we've talked about it, is make them part of your community. Explain to them what their role is. Explain to them what instructional design is. Explain to them what you're doing. And if you don't create community, you're going to struggle. They'll just come in and do what they need to do, and okay, that's terrific. But it can be more than that. And a lot of these subject matter experts really are interested in instructional design once they get their toes in it. And I can't tell you how many SMEs that I know worked with the subject matter experts, then went on to be instructional designers, and darn good ones, because they already had this knowledge of content in a specific area. So they could buzz right through courses in their area because they already had that expertise, and all they needed was the instructional design skill set.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Chuck, for sharing your insights in this chapter chat. Thanks, everyone, for tuning into this chapter chat. And we will see you in the next one.